Okay, welcome everybody who's here in person, and for those of you that are joining online for this very special talk today, our first lunch hour talk. So this is a good opportunity to see what kind of crowd we turn out at lunch hour. My name is Mark Barnico. I'm the executive director of the campus here, and I want to welcome you to the talk on the global race for a better battery. We're sharing, as always, we're sharing this on Zoom and Facebook and YouTube. If the audience that's on Zoom has any questions, you can register for Zoom if you're not already on Zoom, and then ask the questions on the Q&A button on Zoom. And for those of you who are kind of new to our campus, I would like to just offer that you subscribe on our website to our e-news. You just go on our website at www.uchicago.hk, and you can subscribe there, and you'll get all the kind of the news and the events that are taking place on this campus. So yeah, I've been wanting Professor Shirley Meng to come to this campus for quite some time, since I learned about her a few years ago, and we just spent a little bit more time together talking. She is the Pritzker School of Molecular Engineering professor at the University of Chicago. She holds a lot of titles, a lot of roles, has earned a lot of accolades. So I'll just summarize some of them here. Professor Meng's the chief scientist at the Argonne Collaborative Center for Energy Storage Science at Argonne National Lab. She's also the director of the Energy Storage Research Alliance, which is an innovation hub funded by the U.S. Department of Energy. She's a principal investigator of the research group Laboratory for Energy Storage and Conversion that was established at the University of California in San Diego, where she was before she came to UChicago a few years ago. She held the Zabel Chair Professor in Energy Technologies at UC San Diego and founded the Sustainable Power and Energy Center there in 2016. As I mentioned, she has many, many awards. I think we have a link to Professor Meng's personal or UChicago website. So all of her awards are there, but the most recent ones are the ACS Research Excellence in Electrochemistry Award, ECS Battery Division Research Award, and the C3E Technology and Innovation Award. She's also been elected to the Fellow of Electrochemical Society, Fellow of Materials Research Society, and Fellow of American Association for the Advancement of Science. And she's the author of co-author of 320 peer-reviewed journal articles, 2 book chapters, and 12 issued patents. So she's got a really just amazing background, and I'm so thrilled that she's here. She got her PhD in advanced materials for micro and nanosystems from Singapore MIT Alliance, and did her bachelor's degree at Nanyang, where she had first-class honors there in Singapore. And then, since I have a background in Silicon Valley doing startups and innovation, I was excited to see that she's co-founded 2 or maybe more startups with some of her students: Unigrid, a US-based sodium battery startup company, and XPost Technology, a USA battery upcycling startup company. So she's a co-founder as well. I think you'll really enjoy the talk with Professor Meng today, and I'd like to welcome Professor Meng to the stage. Excited to hear your talk.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark, for the kind introduction. It's a great pleasure to be back in Hong Kong. Last time I was here was 2019. My brother-in-law is a Cathay Pacific pilot, so very happy to be back. So I would say that the title is for Global Race for Better Batteries, but the take-home message for everyone is the race is really against the rising temperature, not against each other. I hope my talk will give you some convincing evidence. This is the beautiful UChicago campus. I hope that many of you had the opportunity to visit. I would like to start my presentation by going over a brief history of battery, because I think that people get quite used to having a battery on your hand without thinking too much. But actually, the history of the battery coincides so well with the Industrial Revolution since over 200 years ago. Sir Alexander Volta is the person who actually invented the Volta pile. After 200 years, you're still using these batteries. So all the AA, AAA batteries are based on the same principle as the Volta, the zinc pile that he invented in 1800s. And I think very few people know the word battery is coined by Benjamin Franklin. I think all the Americans know who Benjamin Franklin is. In the 1859, lead acid batteries was invented. However, you probably don't realize over the last 1.5 century, lead acid battery still, even today, has over 50% of the market share. Yeah, most of the industrial forklifts and heavy duty stuff is still on lead acid. Lead acid batteries took about 150 years to reach 1 terawatt hour production capacity per year. And I will talk about the unit terawatt hour, okay? So 1 watt hour is a very large energy unit. 1 hour is 3,600 seconds. So 1 watt hour is actually 3.6 kilojoule. It's actually a very big energy unit. And in your phone, you have about 36 to 40 kilojoule that you are holding on your hands that without noticing. Lead acid batteries has less than 1/3 of the energy density of lithium ion batteries. Okay, so remember 1960s, American scientist Oshinsky invented the nickel metal hydride. And these two gentlemen, Professor Goodenough, Professor Whittingham, are the American scientists. Stan is British born, but they're American scientists who invented this called intercalation chemistry, which is the beginning of lithium battery. So the year I was born, Stan actually published the paper, Lithium Batteries, in Science magazine. And it took another more than 1.5 decades before 1992, Sony. So the third Nobel laureate is Dr. Yoshino Akiro, also contributed to the intercalation chemistry. 1992, lithium ion batteries first invented. So all the people sitting here in the audience realize that lithium ion battery is the youngest among all the battery chemistries. The important take-home message I would like you to remember is actually whenever scientists invent the new battery chemistries, we don't replace the old ones. The old ones, the older technologies continue to find their niche areas to contribute for mobility, for mobile devices, or for electrification of transportations. So the lessons for moving forward for the next 100 years of humanity, new batteries like sodium batteries, solid-state batteries will be invented, but they're not invented to replacing anything previously invented. They are invented to unlock applications that you previously think is impossible. And hopefully along the way, we are also contributing to the decarbonization, and which I will explain to you why electrochemical energy is intrinsically a more efficient technology compared to combustion engines based on the fossil fuels. So Internet of Things, robots, drones. I think Xiaopeng released the flying cars last month in Shanghai Auto Show. So you can think about all these applications will be enabled by new type of batteries. And the semi-truck, one semi-truck, typically 1 megawatt hour. Okay, and you probably have it's like 10 Tesla cars in the semi-truck, Tesla Model S. Right, so these are the important application. Of course, the ultimate holy grail is to be able to enable storage for gigawatt hour for renewable grid. So I want to always tell my students, yes, Nobel Prize was given for lithium ion batteries, but let's don't give up, because you will see later, lithium ion batteries cannot answer all the demands for the storage for the grids. Okay, so this overview of the brief history give you an idea where we are heading towards, because the next 100 years, we still have a lot of batteries to be invented, to be made, so that we can electrify everything. And even though I think people recognize batteries as a commodity, the science, this is the molecular view of batteries. The top box that is shown on the screen is what intercalation chemistry is about. So the positive electrode is the layered nickel, manganese, cobalt oxide. The negative on the left-hand side is the graphite. Everybody knows how the graphene layers look. You stack the graphene layer together, it's graphite. And the lithium or sodium, those ions, they are just being transported between the two layer materials. So you could think of the bookshelf. But the difference is that those chemical ions in the bookshelf in the left and the bookshelf in the right, they have different chemical potential. So you could also think of the hydroelectric dam. When the potential is high or potential is low, water will generate electricity. Same, okay? Battery device, every time when you charge your battery, you are making a mini chemical engineering plant because the electricity is enable the lithium ions to travel from low chemical potential to high chemical potential, okay? So when you fully charge your batteries, the two chemicals in your cells are unstable. They are very unstable, but then you immediately use your battery when the screen light up. So the ions will travel from high chemical potential to the low chemical potential, and that's how you get the electrons. And you don't feel any weight change, even though the electrons are being transported, because battery is what we call a thermodynamically closed system. The matters don't really go out, right? The only thing go out is electrons. But if you check how much electrons, 1 kilogram electrons, how much is that electrons? You'll be shocked. Okay, electron is the lightest matter. So that's why when you charge batteries, you don't realize the weight is changing. You just cannot measure it at all. Okay, so each of your batteries is not just one single layer. We stack 20 layers together in order to generate the energy you need for the mobile phones. And this phenomena, eventually all battery materials will fail. Why? Okay, I think I was asked this question a lot of times. Okay, so it's very simple to understand. When the ions, like the lithium and the sodium, move between the two bookshelves, the ions has its physical volume, okay? So the bonding formation between the positive electrode and negative electrode, they will introduce very minor volume change, something like 4 to 5%. Okay, so if you are plastic, 4 to 5% volume change is very easy to handle. If it's ceramics, like oxides, very, very difficult. Right? So majority of the time people think about this is, oh, so this volume change is really little. But do you know airplane, when we fly, airplane take off and landing, the atmospheric pressure change also introduce certain amount of elastic volume change. And this is where the materials bonds, they will generate defects. Okay, by the same token, when you charge your batteries hundreds of times, the materials will experience strain and fatigue, and there will be defect generated in the materials. So the last 25, 30 years since the birth of the lithium-ion batteries, we have spent a lot of time, just like the aerospace engineering, to improve the safety of the airplanes. We are really trying very hard to improve the quality, lifetime safety of the batteries, right? So today, I will tell you, your cell phone battery deteriorate after 3 years is by design, because your phone company wants you to change. And the car companies, 7 years, also by design, okay? And I want to show you today how we can get to 30 years if we use batteries for the grid storage, okay? Because it's an asset. A true asset can be called asset if it lasts for decades. And maybe if you buy it, you can pass on to your kid, right? So batteries still have a long way to go. And then in this graph, you also see there's a lot of new chemistries. So all the things outside of this box is called non-intercalation chemistry. So we are using silicon or lithium metal, and these materials, when they go through the lithiation, so when lithium goes in and come out, the volume change is typically 20 to 30%, very large volume change, right? So this article we published in Science magazine for the public to understand the challenges of all new systems is solid electrolyte interface. So this brick wall-like item in the left and the right-hand side has a very special name called solid electrolyte interface. And this interface, only 10 to 100 nanometer thick, is the determining factor, the differentiators for life and safety of batteries. And most of my career is to spending on deciphering what's being generated at those interface, because these interface, okay, so give you an example, is the true differentiator. Why? On the graphite side, this interface is so stable, right? When you charge your car, okay, imagine you move all the lithium to graphite, very unstable compound you form. This interface protect this unstable chemicals to stay where it's unstable. So you park your car in the parking structure, you go to Phuket Island, go to having fun, you come back, the energy is still there. Why you can't use nickel metal hydride and lead acid? You don't have that layer. When you come back, 50% of the electricity is gone because the unstable materials just release all the ions, and that's the key for the importance of solid electrolyte interface. And the scientists, really, people say the interfacial engineering is the secret sauce where, you know, we can actually manipulate the lifetime. So your phone is designed to fail 3 years because we designed this layer that, you know, yeah, it will deteriorate after 3 to 4 years when your phone battery is used. And when we talk about batteries, you know, I want to show this slide to show people. This slide was widely used in the United States as a geopolitical issue, but I would like to use the slide slightly different to show you the importance of globalization. Okay, so world production of lithium-ion batteries passed the mark of 1 terawatt hour. So I told you lead acid took us 150 years to reach 1 terawatt hour capacity. Lithium ion only used 32 years to reach 1 terawatt hour. So the question we ask ourselves is the next battery technology, how many decades you think we need to use to reach terawatt hour? Okay. And the red is the Chinese companies, the green, the yellow is the Japanese, and the blue is Korean. And people use this to scare a lot of the Western countries. Oh, you know, you only have the 8%, you know, the Europe and the US combined. But let's look at the small timelines I put. These are all my own track record of the historical moment in the battery field. Chinese academician Chen Liquan is the first one who built production line in China, 1998. Right, the recognition of the importance of the battery industry was way earlier. 92, the Japanese surprised the world by releasing these new batteries. 1999, South Korea entered the market 1 year later after China. And 2000, BYD won an order from Motorola. 2001, China entered WTO. 2004, I think the Apple started to produce a lot of the items in China. And electric vehicle key project by the Chinese central government started so early, 2002, right? The policy of using EV as they call it 弯道超车, right? To surpass, because the internal combustion engine effort was not very successful. So the Chinese government has a consistent policy for the over 20 years of supporting electric vehicle. And the only thing I would say really shocked the world is the 2013 central government subsidies was so good for the EV. I mean, you don't need to queue for the license plate. I mean, what better subsidies? I think a lot of people don't really care about the cash subsidies, but that non-cash component really changed the view. So I think it's very important to recognize that China is dominating now, but they are dominating to this position by doing a lot of the right policies, a lot of the incentives, of course, they have protectionism. I will talk about it, but they also had a globalizations imbalance. I would like to give you an example later, particularly about the Tesla story. This is also a slide I used in 2016 when I participated in the China-US EV battery discussion. I want to show you in 2014, everybody actually started the same spot. Look at the green bar chart. Okay, EU is always a little behind, okay, that's a fact. But China, Japan, Korea, and the US, we start 2014 around the same 起跑线, same beginning line. And in fact, China has a bigger problem because their EV industry was so behind. So overcapacity is tremendous overcapacity. Over 60% of in 2014, the overcapacity was really quite problematic. So I want to say that these are not new data I made. These are from my slides from 2016. So looking at how the China government start to implement some of the tariff, which we are very, 25% tariff was important. Let's all remember, right? And the most aggressive measure China has implemented is really the battery whitelist in 2015. Because in 2011, they invited all foreign companies like Samsung, LG, Panasonic to come to US for the JDB. However, during the whitelist release, none of the joint venture development receive any government subsidies. So this is China's protectionist policy, but they counterbalanced by a globalization policy. Tesla is the only US, 100% US owned company who operate in Shanghai. And first of all, I think folks in US absolutely shocked by the speed, because from the construction beginning to the lights turn on is 168 days, right? And most important thing I would really love to emphasize is that when Tesla came to Shanghai, localization of supply chain over 95%, right? So we must recognize that the contributions that the American companies, they create over 20,000 new jobs. They improved the local public transport. They localized the industrial supply chain. And 2019, I think a lot of the folks in the United States, we're really questioning ourselves. Is this something can be copied? Is that something can be, but I guess, right now, we have to discuss a new way how we do the globalization. But this is the past success story. Hopefully it gives people some ideas, right? Tesla helped the localization of the supply chain in China. In my opinion, there's no doubt about it. In California, we have been, I still call I still have my house in San Diego, even though I moved to Illinois. One of the reasons is Illinois was very behind. They don't have a plan for the grid storage, but California have. The last 5 years, California has already installed over 40 gigawatt hour batteries and still climbing up. The order for this year alone is over 30 gigawatt hour, okay? Gigawatt hour, what's the concept? That's 100,000 millions of electric cars number of batteries. And we have this vision. This is the US vision. I will come back later to talk about how many terawatt hour batteries you think the world need, or the California need. I have not done the number for China, but we've done the number for the United States, that around 40 to 50 terawatt hour batteries will be needed alone in the United States if we want 100%, I wouldn't say 100% renewable, we need a more carbon neutral society. Okay, so world production, lithium, 1 terawatt, lead acid, 1 terawatt. How long is it going to take us? And it's not possible all the world are just producing for US, right? So this vision is important. And then US we took so long. I mean, the academia and the national lab and the industry took so long to finally convince, it's really a team effort, have this industrial policy for the first time, benefiting the EV from the Biden administrations. We are not certain this will continue, but when we are doing this, we kept reminding people, right? Tesla's high volume productions took more than 10 years, including a DOE loan of $456 million. And people must remember that the emerging new technologies will benefit from the government subsidies or government help, and these are not replaceable by other types of incentives or assistance that we need when we actually launching this kind of new technology, new initiative. And this is the reason I think US, at least the last administration, recognized the importance of industrial policies. Give you an example, this is what the government has released, and you can see it's a very popular policy because the coastal side has almost nothing. Almost all the awards went to the red states. And after this $4 to 5 billion government incentives, look what happened in the industry, right? This is NatBet, is a trade association for US industrial battery industry. Over 100 billion private fundings came in because the government support. Okay, while we recognize, actually back then we already know that we have a problem because of the supply chain is not robust. And yes, China controls 78% of the cathode, over 90% of the graphite, and 70% of the global cell production. But we didn't get here suddenly. We get here because all the history that I have gone through with you. I think it's very important to recognize that before 2018, US and China are encouraged to collaborate on battery R&D topics and the production. And this is the reason why Tesla's factory in 2019 was built here. And I think this kind of policy, if you want to turn around, it cannot be done within one day, right? So from my perspective, when I moved from University of California, a lot of people, dropped their jaws. Oh, why did you move from San Diego to Chicago? In Argonne National Lab, when I was interviewing for the chief scientist for energy storage job, I shared my worldview. It is quite clear that the world electrification is an unstoppable trend. Just look around you, how many batteries we have. 10 kilowatt hour battery is just a two-wheel small scooter that have that kind of battery. A Tesla Model S is 100 kilowatt hour, right? And we have all the smartphones, smart tablets, 5G, AI, and I only want 1 billion cars to be electrified. Some of the other cars can run on petroleum, not a problem. So you add up all these numbers, and for the grid, I only put 100 terawatt hour for the world because hydrogen has to be successful. Hydro is already successful. My father is a hydroelectric engineer, so hydro is already contributing a lot for energy storage. So 200 to 300 terawatt hour batteries is needed for the entire world. So we don't have time to discuss, okay, the race is 2% in. And yes, our Asian colleagues had made significant contributions to lower the price, to wider the adoption of the electric vehicles. We are only at the very beginning of the energy transition. And how can we right now think about protecting what we have? I mean, it's only 2%. So the biggest question is how can we grow worldwide 1 terawatt hour to 10 terawatt hour? Is there a possibility? What price we have to pay if we have to go for 10 terawatt hour? Is there enough lithium? Is there enough nickel to support this type of growth? Those are the questions that we have to ask, right? And how can we ensure that the global supply chain is robust? Yes, you are talking, I mean, we can talk about, this type of view, everything bad, Asia is in control. It's 2% of what we need, right? So the next step, I think we all should move on to think about the next decade. The next decade for lithium battery alone is not finished yet, right? The race for the better manufacturing in lithium battery is not finished. So in the US, these four, I think, are extremely exciting areas. First column is really the dry battery electrode processing. In fact, in 2017, I had the pleasure serving as the tech advisor for Maxwell Technologies. It's a San Diego local companies. 2 years later, they were acquired by Tesla. And this year, even a company like Tesla takes more than 5 years to nail the technology for all dry electrode processed batteries used in their Cybertruck. I want to emphasize that dry battery electrode processing will revolutionize the way how batteries are made. Not only reduce cost, improve performance, but also lower the carbon footprint as possible. Okay, the second column is called a single crystal nickel-rich cathodes. LFP, lithium iron phosphate, is being controlled by China because the majority of the production is there. And I also take this opportunity to tell everybody on lithium iron phosphate, China didn't steal anything. There is no such thing as technology stealing because in 1997, the patent was never filed in China. When John Goodenough invented the lithium iron phosphate, the patent was not filed in China. So China has the free license to operate. And of course, the acquisition of the A123 was very beneficial for China to quickly ramp up their mass production. But lithium iron phosphate performance cannot compete with nickel-rich layered oxide. And that's why in North America, in Europe, a lot of our effort is still focusing on making the best nickel-rich layered oxide. And in my opinion, the best cost-performance ratio still lies with the nickel-based layered oxide. In the third column, we call it the electrolyte genome. I don't know how hot Hong Kong can become, 40 degrees. I mean, in Singapore, we get 35, 40 degrees Celsius. And then in Chicago, how cold we can get? Make a guess. Minus 30 degrees Celsius. And the temperature, the batteries, EV, are widely criticized in both places because if you have so think about the lithium ion batteries almost like your human body. If it's too hot, we're not happy. If it's too cold, we're not happy. The same thing. So the scientists are working hard on how to make batteries operate from minus 60 C to positive 60 C so that we can actually widen the adoption of the EV. So my own group invented a battery electrolyte called the liquefied gas electrolyte. And then together, my 2 PhD students started the company called the South 8 Technologies. This is also a San Diego-based company. We produce batteries that operate between minus 60 C to 60 C with the existing chemistry, so the existing battery chemistry. Only the electrolyte is new. And last year, my students are very proud to give me a physical copy of the Time magazine because we made it to the best inventions list last year. So this is the area I think innovation-wise, the North America still has a lot of edges, have a lot of competitive edges. The last one is called anode-free batteries. I don't know if you've heard about a company called QuantumScape. It was supported by Breakthrough Energy. Yes, they are commercializing this technology called anode-free. Basically, when you make the battery, there's no anode. You only generate the anode when you are using the battery, and the volumetric density for this type of batteries is very superior. And I think the US is still leading quite a bit on the anode-free battery design. So moving beyond the lithium ion, what's going to happen? So a rough estimate, so I think I've talked to a lot of mining people, including Emily from Pure Lithium, companies who are trying to extract the lithium from unconventional sources. The first 100 terawatt hour, okay, remember, again, we are only making 1 terawatt hour per year. Okay, yeah, if we don't ramp up the production for lithium, maybe we don't have to worry about the source of lithium, but you still have to worry about nickel, cobalt, phosphorus, okay? So first 100 terawatt, if we need 300 terawatt hour and we want the cost for the batteries to be very low, I suggest, actually, we know in my group, all the students, they are focusing on this green zone. It's called rock forming elements, right? So Professor Don Sadoway, my former teacher from MIT, always say, if you want to make something dirt cheap, make them from the dirt. So rock forming is this concept of it's everywhere around us. And within this rock forming, I think sodium batteries clearly stand out. I think everybody know, I joke, I know people, I hope you don't use antidepressant, but antidepressant contains lithium. I always joke with my students, lithium makes you happy, sodium makes you have high blood pressure. So don't eat too much sodium. You can have a lot of lithium, but not too much sodium. But sodium batteries, how magical it will be. You put the salts into batteries and make salt-based battery, okay? So, and if you look at the periodic table, if you still remember your periodic table, hydrogen, lithium, sodium, right? So sodium is actually a widely available element that we can build into batteries. And the US actually have a lot of sodium ash deposit, easily accessible. And if I compare the need for electric cars versus the grid, sodium batteries, first market is really looking at the grid. Nevertheless, in the grid, people are not willing to pay a lot of money. So how many of you have a refrigerator at home for food and water? Everybody. How many of you have a refrigerator for electrons at home? Well, your device all operate on electrons. How can you don't have refrigerator for electrons at home, right? So think about the grid, but refrigerator, you pay very little, right? Batteries, like this phone alone is like $1,000 and it has only 10 watt hour. So think about the business model, very difficult because it's so low cost. So any emerging new battery technology coming immediately to this kind of low cost market, it is indeed very, very challenging. So I don't have an answer for that. All I know is that, the terawatt hour, the grid demand is 10 times bigger than electric cars. And we must offer the public the solution that using solar, wind, geothermal, nuclear, and battery storage offers cheaper electricity. We cannot afford to tell people you have to pay more. Therefore, this is a stage where also I think Chicago was a big attraction for me. You have the Booth Business School. Come on, someone has to figure out how to do the business model for this kind of low cost battery. And it is really a chicken and egg situation. If you don't have the incentive right, this kind of new emerging technology is very difficult to break the curse, that because the initial profit may not be very clear, right? So again, my own startup company, Unigrid. So I want to have the full disclosure. Of course, the lithium-ion battery and the sodium-ion batteries we bought is not the best, okay? It's just to showcase all these kind of cylindrical batteries. They are different in safety. This is a typical nail penetration test. And, sodium batteries can be made very safe. And the Unigrid batteries can be made extremely safe if we chose the right electrolyte and the right cathode materials. And of course, we would love to see, we offer the options for people that when you have abused usage of the batteries, they will not catch fire. You want a refrigerator at home, you must give people this type of product. that if something goes wrong, if the kit do something to the batteries, there will be no major accidents. Otherwise, the refrigerator ideas will not work, right? So I hope I show you some examples because I don't have time to go through all the battery technologies we're working on. But on the big picture, this is again the slide I used when I interviewed for the chief scientist job. The society has always demanded battery scientists for new things. Every time in the last 30 years, we always deliver. When I was a graduate student in 2000, I was told when the battery price below $200 per kilowatt hour, everything will be electric. We were there 2015, and only China actually, now every 2 cars sold in China, 1 is electric cars, right? The rest of the world did not move that fast, but we made it happen. Right now, the battery cost is below $80 per kilowatt hour. The society asks us, can you make a battery 100% recyclable? The answer is yes. The society demand, it is our job to deliver this type of technology. And how do we make recycling process less energy intensive, less carbon intensive is the research focus. And I want to emphasize you absolutely cannot use the same method for the lead acid batteries. Lead acid batteries, the traditional pyrothermal method, dissolve everything and leach the metal out. You cannot do it in lithium-based batteries because you lose money. Lithium iron phosphate is a very, very low-cost product, so we have to use new method. And the last one about the fast charging. In the past, I thought only US folks need the fast charging because, come on, look at Hong Kong, look at Singapore, right? Why do you need the fast charging? Normal charging is very, very good. Yeah, last week I was in Hangzhou, sitting in the NIO car. Well, 5 minutes, I got 600 kilometers because the battery swapping is a reality in here. You have to realize in the United States, we don't have the battery swapping available, right? So there are a lot of these things that the slides is probably 5 years old. I think it's becoming a reality. And the first 2, I think we're still not there yet. High energy batteries that never catch fire. And then the battery can last for 30 years that become your true asset where your kid will be happy to inherit and the insurance company is willing to insure. That's something we still have to work on. And the most exciting latest technology is really solid state batteries. So I will spend the few minutes to talk about the solid state battery. Solid state battery is a platform technology where we believe energy density above 500 watt-hour per kilogram, which is almost double than what is available today, is entirely possible. In solid state battery platform, we also are very versatile. You can have lithium, you can have sodium, all possibilities are available. And of course, this is also linked to the batteries that will catch fires, that we want to enable such abuse-tolerant technology. This is the solid-state batteries you can cut, and it's still operating. The lights is still on, right? The blue LED, right? It's not a magic. This is really happening. Of course, in reality, you want to make car-sized battery that safe. That's the challenge. Right now, for the global all solid-state battery development, there's a very big contrast between the West and the East. Every company in the West are startups. Every company on the East are tier 1 companies. So go figure. I really think it's important for us to recognize the differences, and only through global cooperations that we can bring this technology to the world and make those products available. I think that, of course, it's possible, LG set up plants or Toyota set up plants in US. It's possible for the startups to come here to translate the technology. But this is a fact, right? I just get a snapshot of all the companies who are currently doing solid state. Yeah, and I think there is 0 solid-state battery for sodium right now. So one is waiting to be born. So just some personal view. I think where I believe it's very important to think a bit about investment and how we ensure the companies and individuals invest in the future that actually getting their returns. I think it's very critical for us to, for me personally, speaking with the media, investors, policymakers is part of the duty as a UChicago professor. And the second one, from V to G, cannot be realized only by technologists. Vehicle to grid. I will tell you, we are there. In the small scale, 10,000 cycles batteries are absolutely available. Okay, those batteries, if we use in a car, it's 1 million miles. Can you imagine you drive your car for 30 years? I don't think you want it. I don't want it. I would like to change my car every 10 years. And I'm not very greedy. I think only 10 years. So V2G has to happen, but how can we incentivize that? And the last point I want everybody to remember today after my lecture, battery is not renewable. We are not a renewable technology. We need mining, we need refining, we need production, we need transportation, we need refining, therefore, recycling. Therefore, we must work hand in hand with large corporations like oil and gas, chemical, steel, concrete, scaling and supply chain expertise. We have to, the battery people have to learn from those companies. And no matter how we criticize Congo for its practices for cobalt mining and Indonesia for its nickel mining, well, then North America and Europe and Australia should lead by example. How do you do sustainable mining? How is that possible? And because I think keep complaining about the current situation will not solve any issues. Right? So these 3 things where I would really like to spend my future years to help. And I already had a very rewarding academic career, really thanks to US federal government, Department of Energy, National Science Foundation. I just hope all our academia institutions can go through the current storm together, collectively, and I think staying together and fight this battle is very important. And at the same time, my industrial partners, I think they are all stepping up to help the current situation in North America. More than half of our students are supported by companies like Tesla, BMW, Shell, UL, etc. So I'm almost at the end of my talk. I just want to also take this opportunity to say I'm incredibly lucky at University of Chicago. Last October, we launched the Climate Institute for Sustainable Growth. I'm in charge of energy technologies. Professor Michael Green is on the policy and the market, and Professor David Keith is on the climate system engineering. And after the Climate Institute is launched, Energy Transition Network is official now. And we have all the companies have signed up. And I'm very lucky to have the Argonne National Lab support, Breakthrough Energy support. I hope that in North America, with the mind from mine to line, we will be able to connect the innovators all the way to the ecosystem. And I think that this model really only works if we have the industry, academia, and the national labs work together. My last slide is really about AI. I think people might have questions about generative AI for making better batteries. They really suck. Okay, don't try it. We did the literature. They are excellent. They're better than my students, particularly ChatGPT. I cannot use DeepSeek for, the reason. We are not allowed to use DeepSeek for certain evaluation, but ChatGPT does a very good job. So AI is here, but utilize it with caution. So tabulating literature data, excellent. ChatGPT meet all my requirements for literature data. So we have a very good student in my group. It's called ChatGPT. Since I'm a Singaporean, I want to emphasize AI is going to revolutionize materials discovery. I would say that there's a report Temasek released last month. You can read it where in the semiconductor and the battery materials, they will play a very important role. So let me finish by saying that we hope the Energy Storage Research Alliance, founded by U.S. Department of Energy, really is, I think if you look at our core team, I feel like my job is really to bring together the best early career, mid-career, senior folks in the United States and really think about how we create this battery ecosystem where creative ideas can be, really translate to impact in the society. So ESRA goal number 1 is to leverage integrative autonomous materials discovery with AI. This approach is very critical because in the United States, we all know that people don't work 3 shifts, 2 shifts maximum. I'm just joking. Yeah, actually only 1 shift, right? The US culture is different. We strike work-life balance. And I think Hong Kong also moving towards that direction. So using AI automation as the assistance in the lab can be really increase the productivity. So, I would say here the faces you are seeing are the Energy Storage Research Alliance team, and we hope that we will establish collaborations globally and really think about how do we move towards 300 terawatt hour. I just emphasize you only need 20 terawatt hour per year production for 10 years. After 2035, all we need to know, no more mining of new elements, but mining company, only urban mining, recycling, and reproduction, and use those elements, perpetually circularity. And ESRA has a very important mission is to demonstrate to the world that it's not a dream, that we have to make it a reality. Yeah. So thank you very much for your attention.
Let's have some questions. Anything in the room? Anything online? I have a question. I'll start us off. Can you go back to that AI chart where ChatGPT performed so well? And could you just explain what you actually did there? You were doing a literature search using AI?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've done many types of tests, but we're releasing some of the tests to the public. So this is a question about lithium metal batteries. Is a new type of batteries. Basically, there's no product of lithium metal battery you can buy, but if they are available, they can operate drones. They can operate flying cars. Okay. So we asked based on this concept called the localized concentration, localized high concentration electrolyte, can you tabulate the key metrics? So we already know the answer, what's the best. And we ask the softwares, those algorithms to tabulate the data. So the biggest problem with Lamar Cloud and Gemini, that conceptual reasoning, they all use different algorithms, as you know, right? ChatGPT, wait, yeah. And one of the worst performance they have done is that the references. The key here is that my students said with references. So everything they reason, they have to cite the references. Okay, yeah. I failed a few students for this test. You know why? Several of these, I won't name the names, several of these gave fake references. Yeah, the references in the report is fake. They don't exist, but they look like real references. Okay, ChatGPT is the only one who referenced correctly. So as you know, as a human, we always have to make sure the references to the data is properly cited. And I think this is what we call the hallucination. So there's still a lot of hallucinations in these. I'm sure they will improve. ChatGPT 4.5 will be released very soon. I just want to say Lamar is free, right? So Lamar actually is pretty good. You can see Gemini has more red cross, even though Gemini, you have to pay for it. So I think that use those algorithms with caution. I think we've already decided to embrace AI. So let's all find ways to utilize AI to its best. Yeah.
What do you think about the nuclear battery?
Nuclear battery.
Yeah, the BV100 have released.
Yeah. So first of all, the strict definition of the batteries, the nuclear batteries cannot be called a battery. Okay, so because the battery is an electrochemical device, so electricity to chemical energy converting, and that's why originally in the electrochemical society, that's how we define. Okay, now they call it nuclear batteries because they have a box and then they have a positive electrode, negative electrode. It looks like a battery, but the converting of energy is really the nuclear fusion energy to electricity, right? So strictly saying, yeah, it's not within my area because it's using a different physics for converting energy between the energy forms. But I think nuclear batteries, we can call it modular small nuclear reactors. And I think those are very promising technology. I know Mr. Bill Gates have invested quite a bit. And then with the rising of the AI, yes, but I think people need to understand the risk because it is a very high risk, high return technology. If you want me to rank, the risk for nuclear battery is here, for the lithium metal batteries is here. So yeah, I think it's a good concept because people think battery is friendly. If you call nuclear reactor, I don't think anybody wants it. But if you call it the nuclear batteries, I think we will welcome the nuclear battery technology. Yeah.
Yes.
Can you press the microphone? Yeah, because I'm worried that the online people cannot hear the. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Hello. Yeah, thanks, Shirley. I'm Howard. I'm a graduate from the college and now working in technology investment. I just wonder, in your view, what's the biggest bottleneck towards more wider adaptation of more innovative and probably safer battery technologies? It seems that all the big players, whether it's say TL and BYD, instead of competing on new material, they're just simply using like more dense battery material like LFP, high density LFP pack cathode is a big theme this year.
Yeah.
And I'm just not sure if they are really driving like this technology adaptation of just more innovative things for our next generation.
Yeah, very good question. Thank you. So I just came from Shenzhen. I was in Shenzhen yesterday, and I checked with all the companies that's making lithium iron phosphate. Out of the 40 companies, only 2 are making profits. 38 not making profit because the way how BYD and CATL are squeezing them. Yeah. So biggest bottleneck from your perspective, I would say in my opinion, that's not sustainable. So in the next 10 years, in mainland China, there will be major restructuring of the industry because if the company does not have profit margin, I don't know how company can survive because I think the government eventually do have to taper down completely for the subsidies, right? So for me, the biggest bottleneck in the United States for the new technology, I'm only showing you a few ideas like liquefied gas electrolyte, like all solid state batteries. In the US or Europe, the biggest bottleneck is really the scaling and supply chain. Scaling and the supply chain, the expertise is lost. Because we always have come here to contract manufacturing. Even, for full disclosure, even Unicred, we go to Vietnam for contract manufacturing, right? So I think in the US, that bottleneck, the good ideas is never in shortage. I mean, I've worked in the US for 25 years. The most rewarding part is that, if this hub, we have all these students who really are not, I guess they are just like so freshly minded. They have a lot of good ideas, okay? So the bottleneck for Asia, I think they really have to figure out a business model that companies make money. That I cannot help you, sorry. Yeah, but in the North America, I certainly hope a lot of investment could recognize that, the power of AI, the power of automation, and then, support these new ideas so that they can be translated into impact later. I mean, sooner, within 10 years.
But isn't one of the other constraints in the US, Silicon Valley venture capitalists, they don't like to invest in hardware. They like software. And so how do you overcome that? What are you seeing going on in the investor community in terms of interest in investing in these?
Yeah, that's why I'm spending time with the funds like Temasek, because they don't play the short game, right? So when I call here the investors, I really have a very targeted audience. If in Hong Kong, any of the sovereign funds and pension funds are interested in learning, right? So several pension funds and the sovereign funds, 15 years timeline, and thinking about the grid. I mean, in China national grid, I mean, the electrification goes faster than the policy. The policy cannot follow, right? In the US, the grid is so old. I mean, come on, the large blackout like what happened in Spain is just a matter of time in the US. So I would say that vast opportunities here. But one thing, what we lack in the US is, of course, the policymaker. Just when I thought the bipartisan support for the battery manufacturing is definitely there, something happened this year. So we really don't know. But in Asia, I do think the policymakers are much more consistent. Yeah. So Mark, to your question is that I'm not talking about venture. I think even from my own perspective, that the timeline for grid, to think about the grid, I mean, think about the JP Morgan, Westinghouse, 100 years ago, how the US built the first electric grid. We need that kind of banks and, funds to think long term. So yeah, if there's a good candidates in Hong Kong, please let me know. I'll be happy to, pitch to them how important it is to invest in the grid. The grid of the future.
She raised her hand. I think she's interested. Do you have a question, or are you investing?
Yeah.
Okay.
An energy M&A banker.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
That's great.
So
yeah.
So I started as a project finance banker within power generation, actually, and then within the transmission, eventually distribution. So yeah, I could fully resonate. And I think my own take is that I think you've got two buckets of investors. One are the techies. The other bucket is the long only investors that we're talking about. And I think it really depends on how we look at the asset class, right? How we look at it as an asset class of its own. Are we actually leaning towards the VC type? Or are we actually leaning towards the long only, which goes back to the pension funds, especially European and Canadian pension funds, you name it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Canadian pension fund I had a chance to talk to them. They are very open for, yeah.
Any other questions in the room? Yes.
Very much for this talk. I have a question. I think you quickly mentioned about electric planes. How far along are we to achieving or having functional electric planes?
So in April, Xiaopeng in Shanghai released their special car that the seats can take off, and yeah, so 2 to 6 people, I believe the prototypes are already there. In Europe, we have Lilium, they're also, and I did a lot of the simulations with these lithium metal batteries. We can sustain the flight mission from, for example, San Diego to Los Angeles. Driving is probably 2 hours, but flying is 25 minutes. That kind of, maybe Hong Kong to Shenzhen. It took me so long to get in today. Yeah. So I just want to say 2 to 6 people, you will see product in the next couple years, I believe. Yeah. And I heard it's very expensive, the ride. Yeah. So how about the bigger? I personally think that's not a good area for us to touch because the decarbonization efforts really need oil and petroleum companies to come together. And I would say they have very good strategies for low carbon fuel, and they have very good strategies of carbon capture and utilization. We should leave that business to them. That would be my opinion.
Thank you.
One more online question was asking your opinion about the MetaQuest battery. Any thoughts? Are you familiar with the MetaQuest battery?
MetaQuest.
Hmm?
QuantumScape, you mean?
No, it was MetaQuest. So maybe they typed it in.
Yeah, maybe.
MetaQuest.
Yeah, I haven't learned about the MetaQuest, but I'll go back and Google it.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Professor Meng. This has been
Pleasure.
really fantastic. I think the future is in your hands. So yeah. I would just like to close out for the online audience and for everybody here, little housekeeping. Everybody has in front of you our Summer Academy brochure. If you have high school age students who are interested in data science or Introduction to Public Policy Summer Academy, we had a hard deadline of April 30th and we closed off the applications, but we've since reopened and we're going to keep it open until May 31st. So hope if you have high school age students, if they're interested, they can join the program. The other thing I'd like to just mention is that we have a podcast called The Course, and I'd actually like to invite Professor Meng to join the podcast where we can learn how you became a professor. Yeah, we have this Hong Kong podcast called The Course. It's on Apple and Himalaya and all the podcast platforms. And all of our fabulous faculty like Professor Meng are joining the podcast and letting us learn a little bit how they became professors. It's an inspirational podcast for all of us, actually. So thank you for those of you that came in person and for everybody that joined online. I'm sure you have many questions that you'd like to ask Professor Meng separately. So we'll conclude and say thank you and have a great day. Thanks for joining.